Hashem Elokeinu Hamakbil Hashavet Oy bashamayim uba'aretz Oy mekimin me'afar Me'asfot yarim me'evyon Oy lehoshivin Im nedivim Im nedivei amor yarim me'evyon Oy lehoshivin Im nedivim Im nedivei amor Oy lehoshivin Im nedivim Im nedivei amor Im nedivei amor כתוב בתורה הקדושה אנוכי אסתיר פניי ביום ההוא ביום ההוא ביום ההוא אבל רבי נחמן מסביר ואפילו בהסתרה שבתוך ההסתרה בוודאי גם שם נמצא השם יתברך ואפילו בהסתרה שבתוך ההסתרה בוודאי גם שם נמצא השם יתברך ואפילו בהסתרה, שבתוך ההסתרה, בוודאי גם שם נמצא השם יתברך, ואפילו בהסתרה, שבתוך ההסתרה, בוודאי גם שם נמצא השם יתברך. אוי אוי אוי, גם מאחורי הדברים הקשים העוברים עליך, אני עומד, אני עומד, אני עומד. גם מאחורי הדברים הקשים העוברים עליך, אני עומד, אני עומד, אני עומד. אוי אוי אוי, גם מאחורי הדברים הקשים העוברים עליך, אני עומד, אני עומד, אני עומד. גם מאחורי הדברים הקשים העוברים עליך, אני עומד, אני עומד, אני עומד.
ואפילו בהסתרה, שבתוך ההסתרה, בוודאי גם שם נמצא השם יתברך. ואפילו בהסתרה, שבתוך ההסתרה, בוודאי גם שם נמצא השם יתברך.
אוי אוי אוי, גם מאחורי הדברים הקשים העוברים עליך, אני עומד, אני עומד, אני עומד. גם מאחורי הדברים הקשים העוברים עליך, אני עומד, אני עומד, אני עומד.
גם מאחורי הדברים הקשים העוברים עליך, אני עומד, אני עומד, אני עומד. גם מאחורי הדברים הקשים העוברים עליך, אני עומד, אני עומד, אני עומד.
גם מאחורי הדברים הקשים העוברים עליך, אני עומד, אני עומד, אני עומד. גם מאחורי הדברים הקשים העוברים עליך, אני עומד, אני עומד.
אני עומד.
Okay, Shabbat Shalom and Chag Hamatzot Sameach. Welcome to the Torah study. Let me get rid of this. There we go. Okay, so I thought that welcome everybody first of all, and Shabbat Shalom, Ariella. I thought that what we might do today is go through the Passover Haggadah, unless anyone has any specific questions. So if anyone has any specific questions, if you want to do it as a question and answer kind of thing, we can do that. Too much background noise here. Okay, hold on a second. Are you talking about from my side or on your side? Because there's really no background. Oh, you know what? Maybe this heater is doing it. Hold on a second. Is this better now? How are we doing on the sound now? Sound check. Hello. Hello. Okay. All right then. So okay, well, okay, all right. Well, that's a miracle because usually the internet here stinks, especially on the weekends. I live in a small village, and everyone shares whatever limited bandwidth there is, and everyone comes to visit their grandmothers and grandparents and stuff like that in this village on the weekend. So it usually jams up the internet, and we're left with whatever whatever we can get out of everyone's share. All right. So at any rate, let me open up the Karaite Haggadah, and let's do it this way. Let me reshare here. So I'm going to stop that screen share. Screen share. No, I'm just going to share the tab. I think that's going to make it easier. Screen share. No, you know what? I better share the whole window. Okay, share. Share screen. Window. Toida. And there we go. So you should be able to see now the Karaite Haggadah. I'm going to print, or I'm going to share the link to it. And you can follow along. Let me just make sure it's coming up correctly here. Yeah, that looks good. So let me share the link. It's taking its time. Try this again. Not sure why it's taking its time. There we go. Get link. Close this off. Now it's down. That I made from scratch. I'm very proud of it. Yes, it's the Haggadah that I sent last week. It is. If you're ever going to use it today, print it out in. That's really the best way to use it. It's kind of a between if you're doing it past laptop. A little bit different. So at any rate, well, no time to print it out unless you have already done it. So we can go through. We could just read it, and if any questions they come up, okay. So let's start here. So like to read? Well, if you'd like to read, let me know. Not, I'll read. First, let's sort of sacrifice on the holiday of Hakham Melech. There we go. Command to celebrate this holiday. How do we? I am proud to say was my wife at the time. Either by, I don't know if that came through either by me or by my wife at the time. By me, I think. So I love the photographs of the festival of unleavened bread. So I'm going to read through and okay. So we're reading here. We're in verse Leviticus 23:4, and please ask questions. Okay? So Elam Yahweh Mikara'ik Kodesh Asher Adam בחודש הראשון באש בין 40 פסח ליהוה יום לחודש הזה מצות תאכלו יקרא קודש יהיה לכם כל מלאכת עבודה לא תעשו יקרא יום השביעי יקרא קודש מלאכת עבודה לא. So okay, there we have that. I'll just read the translation. These are the meeting times of Yahweh. Sacred assembly announced at their set times. 14th of the month. Full darkness is the Passover sacrifice to Yahweh. Of course, on the errors, I'm just going to correct. 15th day of that month. On the 7th, they hold the same and do work. So here we know is real of the right. So it actually starts with Shabbat, and Shabbat is actually called a Hag or a Mo'ed, I should say, in Leviticus 23, and we have the repeating holiday Shabbat repeating every days throughout the year, and then the rest of the holidays repeating once. These are called Kodesh. This is usually translated as holy convocations here. I can't remember. I took it originally from the NIV, and then I started them. But instead of root likro, call. In this case, so a mikra. Kodesh. I'm sorry, I should have said not Mikra Kodesh, the Mikra Kodesh. The Mikra is a calling or a calling together from the context here, right? Because it's a day in which everyone is called, right? It's the nation is called, so they usually translate it as a convocation, con together, voc from the word vocal, so calling together, right? Even though the word Mikra doesn't explicitly imply a calling together, it just means a calling. The context implies that it's calling together, right? We call out that this is we call for everyone to come celebrate this. We also know that Hagamatzot is one of the Shloshet Regalim, one of the 3 holidays in which we're supposed to go up to Jerusalem, and that is from Deuteronomy. Which chapter verse holidays, but let's take a look. The pilgrimage festivals. Okay. Right, so Exodus 34 and Deuteronomy 3 times a year. Deuteronomy 16 Deuteronomy 16, which is actually going to be next week's Parsha. Okay? So let's look at that for a second. No, what am I saying? Deuteronomy 16. Leviticus 16 is going to be next week's Parsha. Deuteronomy 16 is not. Okay, so let's go to Deuteronomy 16. So we have it here in Deuteronomy 16:1, 9 through 10. Okay, well, this is speaking about the Passover. So this is kind of also a replay of some of the main. So let's read through this, okay? So Deuteronomy 16:1, Shamor et Chodesh Aviv, keep the month of the Aviv, right? We're in the month of the Aviv. Asita Pesach li Yahweh Elohecha ki b'chodesh Aviv hotziaka Yahweh Elohecha mimitzrayim laila. So yeah, so keep the Pesach. Pesach means the Passover sacrifice. The word Pesach in the Torah does not ever mean the 7-day holiday where we eat unleavened bread. It means the Passover sacrifice. There is one place, I think only one place if I remember correctly, where the holiday is not called Hag HaMatzot, it's not called the Festival of Unleavened Bread. It is actually called Hag HaPesach. But that basically means the holiday that comes after the Passover offering, or the holiday associated with the Passover. Okay, but the name of the holiday itself is quite clear from the Torah that it's called Hag HaMatzot and not Hag Pesach. We call it Passover, but that's not what, when the word Passover, Pesach, is used in the Tanakh, it's referring to the Passover offering. Okay. So, and let me just see something here. So here, Exodus 12:11, B'chipes on Pesach Yahweh, this is the offering. L'mishpatchem shachatu Pesach, so you slaughter the Pesach, Passover offering, right? Matam zevach Pesach Yahweh in Exodus 12:27, this is the Passover offering. Okay, Zot chukat the Pesach, and this goes into the laws of the Passover offering. Same here, Passover offering. Exodus 34:25 explicitly it's zevach hag Pesach. So this is the oh, we should take a look at this one for a second. Here it says, here it uses the word Hag Pesach. I think this is the only place where it ever calls the holiday Hag Pesach. Okay. No, I'm sorry. Right. So this here is speaking about the festival. I'm sorry, the Passover offering, but it calls it the offering of. It calls it the sacrifice of the Passover holiday. Okay, but that's really referring to the Passover offering again, right? This is referring to an offering there. Let's see what thing. One second. And here it says also, here's Exodus 34:23, stating the 3 times of the year that we're supposed to go up to Jerusalem, or to wherever the tabernacle was, which was originally permanently placed in Jerusalem. So verse 23, Exodus 34:23, shalosh pa'amim, 3 times, b'shana, during the year, yireh kol zechurcha et pnei ha'adon. All male, so it's the males that are required to go up, right? So yireh kol zechurcha pnei ha'adon. All of the males will be seen, or will see, or will be in the presence of the face of Adon Yahweh, the master, the Lord, or the master. Adon means just the master. Very possibly where we get the what is it? What's the Latin word for Lord or master? Don, right? In Latin, what's the word for Dominus? Okay, but that became Don in various languages, right? What's the word for master in Italian? Don, right? Yeah, that's why the mafia people call their masters like Don, Don this, and Don Tony, and Don this. I should use Tony. That's Ariela's husband's name, but you get the idea. So it's very possible, I haven't checked the etymology, that the word dominus in Latin, which means master, comes from Adon. Okay, so at any rate, where were we? So it's Pnei Adon Yahweh Elohei Israel. Okay, so basically every male has to come up and see the Lord or the Master Yahweh, the God of Israel. Okay, because I will orish means to, it's the causative form of the verb lareshet, which means to inherit. Cause to inherit basically means throw out, give you the inheritance of the nations before you. And I will expand your borders. And no one will lust after or will covet. Right? This is the same word as we see in the Ninth Commandment. Yes, the Ninth Commandment. Ninth Commandment. Tenth Commandment. Tenth Commandment. Lo tachmod, where it says, "Do not covet your neighbor," right? Your neighbor's wife and your neighbor's house, etc. Here it's exactly the same word. Yahmod. It means to take a liking towards, or to have a desire towards. So no one will have a desire towards your land, or no one will covet your land. No one will put their eyes on your land with the intentions of taking it from you. So no, in other words, what the Torah is saying here is that when you go up to see God for those 3 times during the year, no one's going to take your land. Okay. Now remember, the women are left behind, right? I mean, I suppose the women can come, but they're not required to come. The women are allowed to stay behind. It's each male has to come and appear before God, or visit, or say hi to God. The women stay home and, I guess, take care of the homestead. So now you have all the women left alone in the homestead, and despite the fact that in this modern day and age we want to pretend that women can fight and defend homelands like men. I'm sorry to not be politically correct, but that's probably not the case. Although I have met some pretty mean women, I must say. At any rate, I don't think they could form an. If the army in World War II going against the Nazis, the American army was all women, I don't know what the outcome would have been. Let's put it that way. At any rate, the point is that all the women, even though they're staying home and they're not required to come up to Jerusalem, so basically the entire land is, all of the men are up in Jerusalem, right? That's basically a crying out to the enemy, come get us, right? All the men are gone, only the women and children are back home. That any enemy would look at that and say, hey, it's time to yahmod, it's time to covet, take over this land. We're going to keep we have our intention set. We have our eyes on this land, and when all the men are gone, we're just going to go there and decimate the place and conquer it, right? Because only the women are defending. But here, God promises that won't be the case. No one will set their eyes on your land with the intentions of taking it over, even though all the men are gone. Okay, so so that is that. All right, so if we continue looking at this word Pesach, so Leviticus 23, this is talking about the Passover offering, ben arba'im, between the evenings, literally, between the sunsets or between the suns. It basically means, as far as I've come to understand it, it means between sunset and what would be called, we learned the new word, nightfall, right? When darkness in the sky reaches its maximum, right? Basically what the rabbis would call tzeit hakochavim, when the stars start coming out. The rabbis go by 3 stars, okay? So that's ben arba'im. Numbers 9:2, Yisrael et Pesach b'ma'ado. So again, this is the Passover offering. We always see that the word Pesach refers to the Passover offering. Numbers. Let's look where else the word Pesach may occur outside of the Torah itself. Yeah, so we have in Joshua 5:11, which is quite famous. We could take a look at that. That's the Israelites coming into the land of Israel finally. So let's take a look at this. Joshua 5:11. We could start at the beginning of the book of Joshua. I'm not the beginning of the book of Joshua, the beginning of chapter 5 of Joshua. Okay. ויהי כשמוע כל מלכי האמורי אשר בעבר ירדן ימה וכל מלכי הכנעני אשר על הים את אשר הוביש יחווה את מי הירדן מפני בני Okay, sorry about that. Let me turn this off so I'm not disturbed. Okay, so so when all the kings of the Amorites, on the other side of the Jordan, that means basically in the land of Israel, Yama towards the west, and all the kings of the Canaanites, Asher al Hayam, and all the kings of the Canaanites that were on the sea or on the coast, et Asher hovish Yahweh et me Yarden, that God had dried up the waters of the Yarden. Remember, the waters of the Yarden split. I mean, maybe it's not as amazing as the waters of the Red Sea or the Sea of Reeds splitting as Moshe did, but Yeshua also does a little splitting. He splits the Jordan River, and the Israelites pass through on dry land as the Jordan River splits. Okay, Israel ad Avram. That the Jordan River was dried up for the children of Israel ad Avram until they passed over, meaning until they passed over from the east to the west into the land of Israel. That their hearts melted, and they no longer had any they lost their what's the word? Their mojo, I guess. They no longer had any spirit before the children of Israel. Basically, they lost their heart, you could say, right? They feared the children of Israel and lost their will to fight. Let's put it that way. So we are now in Joshua chapter 5, verse 2. And we have Va'itahi amar Yahweh el Yoshua. At that time, Yahweh said to Yoshua, Aseh lecha charvot tzurim avshuv mol et bnei Israel. So make yourself literally swords, I guess you could say knives, they translate it as here. So now you're going to make yourself knives out of flint, tzurim, okay? V'shuv mol et bnei Israel shenit, and re-circumcise Israel, okay? Go back and circumcise the children of Israel once again. What the heck does that mean, okay? Well, we're going to find out. Yaslo Yoshua haravot tzurim. So Yeshua made knives out of flint. Yamal et bnei Israel et el givat ha'aralot. He circumcised the children of Israel on the hill of the uncircumcised, or I'm sorry, I should say the hill of the an arel is an uncircumcised. But an orla is a foreskin, so it's on the hill of foreskins. How about that for come there the next day and just look out like a million foreskins lying all over the hill? And this is the thing that Yoshua did in circumcising all of the people. It's about to explain. That's exactly what it explains. Okay. היוצאים ממצרים זכרים כל אנשי המלחמה מתו במדבר בדרך בצאתם במצרים. So this is regarding the issue of Yoshua of Yeshua circumcising all of the people. Wait 1 second. All the people came out of Egypt, Azcharim, or all of the males that came out of Egypt. All those who were literally men of war, but it means those who were of military age died in the desert, right? We know this from the Torah, that anyone who's over the age of 20 died in the desert because the Israelites would not stop complaining to God. So that was the punishment of wandering for 40 years in the desert. So they had been circumcised. They all died in the desert. On the way after they're going out of Egypt, because all of the people who left Egypt, they were circumcised. And all of the children, or I should say, all the people who were born. Just 1 second here. This actually sheds light on something we were speaking about before. So I'm gonna get to it in a second. So all of the people who were born in the desert, in the wilderness, on their way after exiting Egypt, or in their exiting Egypt, lo malu, were not circumcised. Okay? Ki 40 shana halchu bnei Israel b'midbar ad tom kol hagoy, asher milchama yotzim miMitzrayim, asher lo sham'u b'kol Yahweh, asher nishba. Okay? So basically what it goes on to say is they wandered in the desert for 40 years until all of the people from that generation died because they didn't listen to God. Asher nishba Yahweh lehem lebilti because he had sworn, because God swore that he would not show them the land which he had sworn to their forefathers. He had sworn to the forefathers, saying he would give us a land flowing with milk and honey. And these children that were born, in their place, in other words, the next generation that were born in the desert. And remember, every single person was told they were going to die in the desert, except Caleb ben Yefuna and Yeshua ben Nun. Right? Those two were told they were going to enter the land of Israel because they gave a good report against when the spies went to spy out the land. So those are the only two people from the generation that entered the land of Israel. Even Moshe himself, we know, because he struck the rock and did not sanctify God's name. Even he died on the other side of the Jordan River. So the only two people from that previous generation who had seen Egypt to enter the land of Israel were Yeshua ben Nun and Caleb ben Yefuna. Everyone else who was born in Egypt died out in the desert. Now the next generation took their place, and they were not circumcised while they were in the desert. Okay. It doesn't say explicitly, it just says here that Joshua circumcised them because they were uncircumcised, because they did not circumcise them on the way, on their journey, right? So one can speculate why, okay, but it doesn't say explicitly why, okay? I would think maybe because they were constantly wandering, it would, if every child that was born they were circumcising, they wouldn't be able to move, right? Because you can't really, it would be kind of dangerous, I guess, maybe to cart a child around, a little baby around. What's that? I don't know. There are some places where they it speaks about exactly what the journeys are. But that's my guess. But even that doesn't really make sense because honestly, you could, if you pack a baby onto the top of a donkey and give it a nice pillow and whatever, then you can move it around. So I don't know. It doesn't say, the Torah does not explain exactly why, so we can only speculate. Okay, we could see maybe what Robert Alter has to say about that. But the speculation would be, in my opinion, that it would somehow be dangerous for the children to be circumcised while they were on the journey. And remember, there would constantly be children circumcised. If every day you had to have another bris, then there would be no end to the partying. And it's, I guess you don't want to have at a bris you want bagels and lox and some good whitefish and maybe a little bit of herring. You don't want manna at the oh, now I sound like one of the complaining Israelites. Oh boy. All right. At any rate, the Torah does not explicitly, I mean, the Tanakh, the book of Joshua, doesn't explicitly say why. It just makes a statement that they were not, okay? They weren't circumcised. Doesn't say exactly why. It states the fact that they were not circumcised. So therefore, they were circumcised right before they went into the land of Israel on this place, Givat Aralim, Foreskin Hill. Okay? The sun sets over Foreskin Hill. What's that song by? Is it? Where is that? Hold on. No, One Tree Hill. One Tree Hill. I don't know. Wait. So just replace the lyrics with Foreskin Hill. Why is this not working? Hello. I don't know what's going on here. Probably internet problems again. At any rate, so that's Foreskin Hill and Givat Aralot, the hill of foreskins. So we didn't even get to where it speaks about Passover yet, right? Vayehi kasher. So this is Joshua chapter 5, verse 8. Vayehi kasher tamu kol hagoy le'imol vayishvu tachtam b'machane ad hayotam. So this kind of does explain it right here. Okay, this is maybe an explanation. So in Joshua chapter 5, verse 8, it says, and so it was when all of the nation, all of the people were tamu kol hagoy lehimol. All of the people were finished being circumcised. That they stayed in their place in the camp. Okay, they didn't move from the camp ad hayotam until they became well again, until they became healthy. So I think that would probably be the reason, right? Although then again, these are adults being circumcised, right? Until they were healed, they translate until hayotam, literally until they came back to life. But it implies until they recovered. Okay, so right, so that's that, and then so that would give an explanation as to why they weren't circumcised in the desert. It would probably be because here we see that after they were circumcised, they didn't move for however many days. If we look at, I'm not going to go there now, but if we look at Genesis chapter 35, I believe. When Levi and Shimon go and destroy Shechem, they tell all the males to circumcise, and it says 3 days later, when they're in the height of their pain from the circumcision, they came and they destroyed the entire town. Right. So there's a certain recovery period after having a circumcision, especially if you're an adult. Right. Maybe as a baby, it's gonna be a little bit quicker, but basically you have to recover. And you're in no state to fight, as we see from the story with Shem. So here, the people, after they were circumcised, remained at this place, at the Foreskin Hill, and they waited there until they got better, however many days later. Right? Doesn't say how many days. So that's that. But that would give an explanation as to why they were not circumcised in the desert. Let's see what Robert Alter has to say about it, just out of curiosity. So we're going to go to Joshua chapter 5. All right, let's see. Let's get a little commentary here. Flint Nice. Joshua circumcising the object of the verb in this clause is them, is merely implied, right? Males, men of war. This is an indication of age, 20 years old being the beginning point of military service. This is what we said. The generation now died out is about to be replaced by a new generation of adult males who will carry out the campaign of invasion. The whole generation. Okay. They had not been circumcised, literally, they had not circumcised them. They remained in their place until they revived. It must be said that, in realistic terms, circumcision of all the fighting men just 3 days before battle is joined would be a rather imprudent measure, but the writer is focusing on the state of ritual purity necessary for the celebration of Passover and for the conduct of warfare, so he's prepared to have us assume that all men are fully recovered and ready for action after 3 days. Okay, so I guess it will speak about the time period in just a second. Okay, that's it. So that's all Robert Alter author has to say. Okay, let's go on. So we are now in verse. Okay, verse 9. Yomer Yahweh el Yehoshua. So God said to Yahweh, said to Yahweh. I'm still debating between what I will the name, but I have watched again this video series that I pointed out from very knowledgeable young man who happens to be. Oh, there was the internet. A very knowledgeable young man who happens to be a Christian, but his knowledge of Hebrew is unbelievable, and his belief in his Christian belief doesn't really have very little impact on what he has to say. He's really basically just going through Hebrew grammar in a very detailed way, and he has a 15-part series explaining why the name is Yahweh and not Yehovah. So I've been starting to use Yahweh, and I think I'm going to head in that direction. So at any rate, right. So here we have in verse. Oh, that's not Joshua. In verse 9, we Omer Yahweh el Yehoshua. So God said to Yehoshua, Hayom galoti et chirpat Mitzrayim me'alechem mikra shem hamakom hahu Gilgal ad hayom azeh. So God says to Yeshua, they're at this place right across the Jordan. They're about to cross the Jordan River. And God says to Joshua, today I have galoti et chirpat Mitzrayim. I've rolled away the, how do you say chirpa in English again? The, oh God, I can't remember the word in English. Chirpa is, well, let me just look. The reproach, thank you. That's the way they usually translate it. The reproach, there's another word that I'm thinking of, which I can't think of right now. Anyway, we'll go with a reproach, okay? Not the curse, but the shame, you could say, the embarrassment, the reproach. So I've rolled away the reproach of Egypt from off of you. And so the name of this place was called Gilgal. Right? So galoti et chirpat Mitzrayim, I've rolled away the reproach of Egypt from off of you. And so the places, and that word for rolled away is galoti, from the word gal. Gal means a wave. A galgal is a wheel, and that actually is used. That's a biblical word. Galgal. It speaks about the wheels of the chariots of the Egyptians. Getting stuck in the mud when the Israelites crossed the Sea of Reeds. So galoti is to roll away, right? Like a wave, right? Or a wheel, right? Roll away. And so now the place is named Gilgal. We actually visited Gilgal. If you remember, we were with our friend Bruce Brill the last time we were in Israel in 2019. We visited Gilgal right near the Jordan River, what they believe is Gilgal. Okay. So that place is named Gilgal. So this is basically the last place they are before they cross over the Jordan River. And here, now it's talking about the Passover. This is Joshua chapter 5, verse 10. So the children of Israel camped in Gilgal. יעשו את הפסח ב-14 יום לחודש בערב בערבות יריחו. So they camped in Gilgal. So they're actually Gilgal's in the land of Israel. So what did I do wrong here? Oh, they already crossed. I'm sorry, my mistake. They already crossed the Jordan. They're already in the land of Israel. That's in Joshua 3. So they've crossed into the land, and now they're going to circumcise. Okay, so it's here in Gilgal on Foreskin Hill. So they're already in the land of Israel. They've just crossed into the land of Israel. Okay, and it actually says right in Joshua 4, I believe, Joshua 4 chapter 10. Joshua chapter 4 verse 10, if I remember correctly. It speaks about. 4:11. Maybe we'll see it here. Maybe it's 5:11. Okay. Anyway, let's read on. So here they are in Gilgal. Okay, on the western side of the Jordan River. And the children of Israel camped in Gilgal. And they brought the Passover offering on the 14th day, right? As I commanded to. It says on the 14th day, Bena Arba'im. Okay, so Bena Arba'im is after the sun sets, and so between what we call sunset and nightfall, between when the sun sets, that begins the evening, And the evening ends as soon as the sky is as dark as it's going to get for the night. I mean, aside from fluctuations like the position of the moon and clouds blocking the stars and moon and stuff like that. But it's the end of the Ben Arba'im, of the Arba'im. It means literally evenings, or some translators between the sunsets. Okay, is between the moment that the sun dips below the horizon to the moment that the sky reaches maximum darkness. That's when we're supposed to. To bring the Passover sacrifice. Okay, and then, but that also starts the 15th, right? So that really kind of brings up an issue: is when does the new day start in the biblical calendar? Does it start at sunset? Does it start at nightfall? I also have some people who believe that. I know some people, including one very not so well known, but very knowledgeable Karaite, who believes that the day doesn't start till the morning, and he actually only starts celebrating Shabbat in the morning when the sun rises on Saturday morning. I completely reject that idea, but I respect his knowledge and his searching well in the scriptures and not relying on other people's opinions. However, we do have some hints as to when the day starts, but nonetheless, it is called, when the Passover is brought, is called the 14th Ben Arba'im. So it's kind of a gray area, no pun intended, right? Because during the evening, the sky is kind of, it's not quite light, and it's not quite white, and it's not quite black. It's kind of gray. So it's literally a gray area. Is this the 14th or the 15th? Does the 15th start at sunset? Does the 15th start at nightfall? Because later on that very night, right, we know the Passover sacrifice was made by the Israelites, and then on the 15th, at midnight, that's when God came and slew all the firstborn of the Egyptians, right? So we know that that right after the Passover is the 15th, and that's when Chag HaMatzot starts. So I'm not sure. I don't have an answer. I honestly would have to study a little bit more. But this time between sunset and nightfall is a kind of a gray area, and here it's being called the 14th day of the month. Okay, so in the evening. Another way of saying between Ben Arba'im, between the evenings, in the evening. Erev comes from the word arav, which means to mix together. In fact, that's one of the 10 plagues. Is the arov, right? If I can find that. So if we look at the 10 plagues. So the fourth plague was called Arov. It's usually translated as wild beasts, although I've heard other translations. So a mix of wild beasts, right? So Arav means to mix together. Erev means the mixing time, the mix between night and day. It's not quite night, it's not quite day. By extension, the word Ma'arav, okay, means the west. Although I don't know if that's a biblical Hebrew word. I have to think now. Does it appear anywhere in the Tanakh? At any rate, in later Hebrew, the word Ma'arav means to the west. Why the west? Because the sun sets in the west. When it's evening, the sun is in the west, or the sun has just sunk in the west. So Ma'arav is the west, and therefore you get words in Arabic such as Maghrib, which is the official name of the Kingdom of Morocco, because it's in the west. Okay, and as I always like to point out, I've been to Morocco a bunch of times. I love it there. Can't wait to go back. I have a very close friend of mine, a Muslim, a Moroccan, who's getting married in August. I hope to go there for his wedding. We shall see. If I go, I'll give him a present. That's saying. So Morocco. So in one second. Yeah, but it's here. It says the Kingdom of Morocco. In Arabic, it says al Malaha. Wait, il Malka il Arabia. But that doesn't make sense. It's called the Maghrib, right? Officially, I thought. on their money. Doesn't it say the Bank of the Maghrib? I know.
What do you think?
Here, the Kingdom of Morocco in Arabic is Al-Malka, so basically
Maghrib.
doesn't say Al-Maghrib, it says Arabia.
No.
Where do you see Maghrib? There's no
Right
mem
there,
here.
you're reading it.
Where? In the Amazigh?
Aleph, and then there's the Lamed Mem digraph, and then there's Chayin, and then there's Reish, and then there's
Oh, that's a Lamed Mem digraph? Ah, you're right. Ah, right. Yeah, it's just not. Yeah, you're right. That is a mem with it. That's a lamed and a mem, right? Il Ma'arib, right? Il Ma'arib, Maghrib. You're right. Ah, so this also would be Il. So maybe it's Il Mamlaka, Il Maghrib. Okay, at any rate, so yes. So Morocco is officially called the Maghrib. We can see that right there. And Maghrib just means the west, because Morocco is all the way to the west, right? It's the western extent of the Arabian conquests, right? Of the Muslim conquests, right? In Portugal, the south of Portugal is called the Algarve, right? Which is Algarve, which is the same, comes from the same word from Algarve, right? Which is the same word, or basically means the west, because of the western extent of the Moorish conquests in the Iberian Peninsula. So if you ever hear of the Algarve, which is a very popular place where especially Brits like to go in the south of Portugal, then that also means the west. So Al-Maghrib, Algarve, all come from this word Arav, which means Erev means evening, comes from the word Arav, which means to mix, and so by extension, the Ma'arav is the west. Okay, so that's that. Where were we? So we were in Joshua. And we have, oh boy, this is too hot. Point this away. So we were in Basar Yom Lachodesh Ba'arev Ba'aravot Yericho. So they're now bringing the Passover offering on the 14th day in the evening in the plains of Jericho, Aravot Yericho, or the plains of Jericho, right? The first city they're going to attack and destroy. And so they ate from the land on the day after bringing the Passover offering, matzot ve'alui ba'etzem hayom hazeh. And what did they eat? They ate unleavened bread. So clearly, we see that that they are now taking, for the first time, they're taking from the produce of the land, and they're eating from the produce of the land. And what are they eating? They're eating matzot. So this is we're now in Chag HaMatzot. And kalui means roasted grains. Okay, so you take wheat grains or barley grains and you roast them, and then you munch on them like a snack. Maybe do other things with them. At any rate, that's what kalui is, and so they're now doing this the day after the bringing of the Passover offering, right? So that would imply that now it's the 15th, and they're not eating leavened bread; they're eating only matzot, flat bread, and kalui, roasted grains, which are both completely kosher for Passover, right? So the manna stopped on the day after they're eating from the land from off the land. And there was no more manna for the children of Israel. And they ate from the produce of the land of Canaan in that day. Well, okay, a lot to say here about a lot of different things. We could get into the Omer offering. We can get into the dating. We can get into, does this somehow support the rabbinical understanding of the Omer offering starting the day after Passover? I'm not going to get into all that stuff right now because we'll just get sidetracked. Well, we've already got sidetracked, but we'll get even more sidetracked. But this is mention of the Passover in the one of only two other places where the Passover offering is mentioned anywhere outside of the actual Torah. We can look at the other one. Close this out. We'll come back here. Okay. 1 second here. Numbers. No, I'm sorry. It's not the only other place. There are a bunch of other places. Chronicles we have in, where is it? Right. So we have in Ezra. We can take a look at that. Let's take a look at Ezekiel, just for the heck of it. So Ezekiel chapter 45, verse 21. Ezekiel 45, 21. Okay. Let's bring it back to 18 here, right? Komar Adonai Yahweh Barishon Be'echad Lechodesh. So says the Lord or the Master Yahweh. Barishon Be'echad Lechodesh. I like to use the word master rather than the word Lord because Lord has already now become associated with the word God, right? Lord and God basically mean the same thing in English almost. So, but it's incorrect. That's not what it means. It just means the master, right? Because Lord really means master, right? So, oh, if you want to close the door, we have the door is open and it's a little bit chilly here. So, so says the Master Yahweh on the first Rishon B'Had L'Chodesh, on the first day of the first month. Tikach par ben bakar tamim ve'hiteta et hamikdash. You shall take so par ben bakar, right? We have our list of the different what that means, par and bakar. So let's refer to our list. Where to go? Actually, I should add really all of this to the other one. But let's see here. So let's refer to our list of animals. So we have the word par. Do we have the word par here? No, we actually don't have the word par. So we can add it. So let's add the word par. So here we have the word par. We're looking at it in Ezekiel 45:18. Spelling Haskell in English again. Ezekiel. Okay, so 45:18. So the word par. A young bull or a steer. So it's a young bull specifically, right? A steer. Now, what does a steer mean? See, I'm not an expert in animal terms, even in English. So, steer. I thought a steer was just a male cow. I mean, a male bull. No. Noun. No. No. Another term for bullock. Oh, bullocks. Okay. A male domestic bovine animal that has been castrated and raised for beef. That's what a bullock is? An ox. Okay, we're getting too far. All right, let's go with this definition here. So here it's a young bull or steer. So let's go with a young bull. So the way we have it here. Okay, I'll go with young bull. So young bull, but then we have to define bull. Okay, why don't we start with this? Ezekiel. Maybe I'll just do this another time because we'll come across this word many other times. So bakar. So yeah, they translated cattle, herd, ox. So it's basically one of the herd, right? So just like we have the flock animals, which are sheep and goats, we also have the herd animals. Maybe I don't want to get bogged down with this right now. Yeah, we're gonna get too far off. I'll just put it here. So we also need the word bakar. Oh, we have here bakar. Okay, cattle, bulls, and cows. So we already have bakar. So now we have a par. So now this is a young bull. So young of the cattle. How do we want to put this one of the flock? Say so young bull. You know what? I'm just going to leave it right now. So we'll come across this word again. But par ben bakar. So bakar is one of the herd, right? Bulls and cows, right? Cattle, basically. And so a par ben bakar is a young bull. Anyway, I don't want to get bogged down here. Okay. So in the first month, you take basically a baby bull, par ben bakar, a tamim, a unblemished baby bull, and you not disinfect. That's a mono word. How do they usually translate this? Cleanse, I guess. Cleanse the mikdash, the sanctuary. Okay. What? Purify. There we go. No, not purify. Actually, it doesn't mean purify. But at any rate, מזוזת הבית ואל ארבע פינות העזרה למזבח על מזוזות שאר החצר הפנימית, וכן תעשה בשבעה לחודש מאיש שוגה ומפתי כי וכיפרתם את הבית. So this is talking about a cleansing ritual of the sanctuary, of the tabernacle, right? But I'm not sure where Ezekiel's getting this from, because this is now saying it takes place on the first day of the first month. This doesn't appear anywhere in the Torah. In the Torah, we're going to get to it in next week's Parsha, in Leviticus 16. We're going to say the purification ritual for the sanctuary occurs on the 10th day of the 7th month, on Yom Kippurim. So I'm sure we could track down what he's talking about here, but I don't want to get bogged down. At any rate, Barishon, Ba'arba asar yom lechodesh, so on the first month, in the 14th day of the month, Yelechem Pasach, you have for yourselves the Passover, meaning the Passover offering. Hag Shavuot Yamim, so and then a festival, or followed by a festival, or it is part of a festival of 7 days. Matzot Yechel, okay, so there's the Passover, and then there's Hag Shavuot Yamim Matzot Yechel, and then a holiday for 7 days in which matzot should be eaten. V'sah hanasi b'yom hahu be'od be'ado ba'ad kol am ha'aretz par chatat. And the head or the leader on that day should do for himself and for all of should bring again a par, a young bull, as a sin offering. Well, we're not calling it a sin offering, we're calling it oh boy, what did we say? We're calling chatat again in English. I forgot, I have it here, hold on a second. No, I don't have it here. What I had here. All right, we'll just call it sin offering for now. For himself and for all of the people. Okay. Shivat yemei chag ya'aseh ola leYahweh. Shivat parim v'shivat elim tmimim liyom shivat yamim v'chatat tzir ezim liyom. So now it's talking about the sacrifices that are brought throughout the 7 days of the festival of unleavened bread. Umincha. So then it goes on to talk about the grain offering. B'shvi'i b'chamisha asar liyom b'shvi'i. ב-15 יום לחודש בחג יעשה כאלה 7 ימים כחטאת כעולה כמנחה וכשמן. So on the 7th, so this is interesting, it says on the 7th day of the 15th day of the month. So what it really means is the 7th day of the 15th day of the month is the beginning of Chag HaMatzot. So it means the 7th day of Chag HaMatzot. It's saying it really means the 7th day starting the count, or starting on the 15th day of the month, right? So we're talking about 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, the 21st day of the first month, which is going to be tonight, basically. Okay, the last day of Chag HaMatzot. Okay, so that's in Yecheskel. It's mentioned. Yecheskel is a little bit difficult to understand, but I don't want to get bogged down on it right now. So we'll just move on. And we'll look at maybe one more. Let's look at 2 Kings 23. So 2 Kings 23, we have Josiah. We know Josiah was a righteous king. He was the one who was told of the finding of the Torah scroll and reinstituted the law of the Torah. He's very important for Karaites because he provides proof that the laws of the Torah can be instituted without any oral law, because it says that they didn't even know of the existence of this written law, and the entire nation had completely forgotten the Torah, and they find this written law, they find this Torah scroll in the tabernacle. Actually, at this point, it would be in Jerusalem in the temple, and they're able to reinstitute Torah law just by reading the written Torah, right? So Josiah is often used as a polemic for Karaites. A polemic for Karaites to show that in ancient times or in any time, all we need is the written law, and we can keep the Torah. We don't need any so-called oral law. At any rate, so we're now looking at 2 Kings, and we were in, where was it again? Uh, 23:21. So if we'll start in 15. V'gam et hamizbeach asher bebeit el habama asher asa Yerovam ben Navat. So now we're talking about, okay, so if you remember back a little bit of Israelite history, when the kingdom split, Yerovam started the northern kingdom, the kingdom of Israel, while Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, was over the southern kingdom. And Yerovam set up two places of he set up 2 golden calves in his northern kingdom, because he was afraid that otherwise the people would go to Jerusalem. So he set up golden calves, and he said, "These are your gods, Israel," using exactly the same phrase that's used in Exodus 17, I think, where it speaks about the golden calf, right? And so he says, Gam et hamizbeach asher bebeit El. So one of the places he set up this golden calf was in Bet El. We've spoken about Bet El many times. Bet El actually has incredible cultic significance. Okay, it's the place where Jacob had his dream. The Jacob's ladder dream took place in Bet El, and on his return from spending 20 years with Laban, with his brother-in-law, his brother-in-law. I can't remember now. With Laban. Wait, Laban was Rivka's brother. So his uncle, right? Am I getting that right? So Jacob, Rivka's brother was Laban. Rivka's son is Yaakov, and Yaakov, so his uncle Laban. So after he spends 20 years with his uncle Laban, he's on his way back, and again he goes to Bet El, and he kind of renews the covenant and sets up an altar there again. If I remember correctly, we'd have to look back in Genesis. At any rate, Yerovam, who broke away from Rehoboam and started the northern kingdom, had set up a golden calf as an idol in Bet El, and this is what this is referring to right here. Okay, so now what is Josiah going to do to this idol? So Gam et hamizbeach asher bebeit El habama asher asa Yerovam ben Nabat asher echti et Israel. So this idol that Yerovam had set up, which caused Israel to sin. Gam et hamizbeach hahu ve'et habama natatz u'yisrof et habama hadek le'afar ve'saraf asherah. So he destroyed it. Natatz, he broke it into pieces. V'yisraf et habama, and he burnt it. One second. Can you please get rid of that? What is that meowing? Oh, it's right here. Okay. Mizbeach hahu et habama. So the altar, he and the high place, he broke to pieces and he burnt it. He burnt the high place and pulverized it into dust and burnt also there was an Asherah, and Asherah is a tree which represents a female fertility deity, which is often found together with a male, Yeah, you can have that. Take matzah, it's over there. Okay, so he burnt all of that. We fin Yoshiahu Yar et Kvarim asher sham bahar, and Yoshiahu turned, and that's Josiah, and he went and saw the Kvarim asher sham bahar, the grave sites which were there in the mountain. Vayishlach vikach et atzamot min hakvarim vayisrof al hamizbeach. So he took the bones from the grave sites and he burnt them on top of the altar. And so in this way he impurified the altar, right? Okay, let's go on to verse 17. הקבר איש האלוהים אשר בא מיהודה ויקרא את הדברים האלה אשר עשית על המזבח בית אל. So we're going to skip ahead because I just want to get to where it mentions the Passover. So let's go to verse 21. Hakham Melech et kol ha'am. So now the king Josiah, Yoshiahu, he commands all the people. Lemor asu pesach li Yahweh. Bring the Passover, or do the Passover offering to Yahweh Elohechem, your God, kakatuv al sefer abrit hazeh, as it is written in this book of the covenant, right? This book that they found in the temple. Ki lo naasa pesach hazeh mimei ashoftim asher shaftu et Israel, because the Pesach, because this Passover had not been done since the days of the judges. Well, it means no Passover like this had been done since the days of the judges. Of course, we can assume that the Passover offering was brought afterwards, right? Obviously, David would have brought it, and maybe some other righteous kings. Solomon probably would have brought it, at least in his early days. Asher shaftu et Yisrael v'chol yemei malchei Yisrael. ששפטו בכל ימי מלכי ישראל, מלכי יהודה, מלכי יהודה, כי אם בשמונת בשמונת עשרה שנה למלך יאשיהו נעשה פסח הזה ליהוה בירושלים. So on the 18th year of the reign of Yoshiyahu, this Passover was brought to Yahweh in Jerusalem. Okay, וגם את האובות ואת הידונים. So then it goes on to speak about the ovot and yidonim. These are the ovot, the witches or the wizards. No, the witches and the different types of necromancers and I forgot the exact English words, but ov, mediums, they translated here, idonim, spiritualists, etc. Okay, so then it goes on to speak about other things that Josiah did. But basically here we see that he reinstituted the Passover, which had not been done since at least the time of the judges or the time of the kings. Okay, so there we have some instances of the Passover occurring in the Tanakh. Alrighty, we're going to go on for about another 10 minutes, and then we're going to end it. So let's go back to, let's unwind a little bit here. So we were in the Haggadah before we got carried away. So any questions, any comments at this point? Let's continue in the Haggadah. Again, we're going to go for about another 10 minutes, and then we're going to end it. So we were here. Let's go on now to Exodus 12. Well, these are the regulations of the Passover sacrifice, and in the limited time we have now, it's going to be too big a topic, so I think we're not going to go into that right now. Let's do Exodus 13, 3 through 10. Okay. Wayomer Moshe el ha'am. So we're in Exodus 13, 3. Wayomer Moshe el ha'am. So Moshe said to the people, Zachor et hayom hazeh. Remember this day, Asher yatzatem miMitzrayim, on which you exited from Egypt. Mi beit avadim, from the house of bondage, or the house of slavery. Ki b'chozek yad hotzi Yahweh etchem mizeh. Because with a strong hand, a mighty hand, Yahweh brought you out of this place, ve'lo ye'achel chametz, and therefore, so chametz should not be eaten, right? Verse 4, Hayom atem yotzim b'chodesh aviv, on this day you are going out in the month of the Aviv. We all know as Karaites more or less what the month of the Aviv is, although no definitions are sure. There's still a lot of questions, but there's at least some kind of working definition of what the Aviv is. I'm not going to get into it right now, but it's a certain stage in the ripeness of the barley. And so shall be when Yahweh brings you to the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, which he swore to your fathers, the Teitlach, Eretz Zavat Halav Dvash, to give you a land flowing with milk and honey. That you shall keep this service in this month, which is interesting because that's exactly what we saw in Joshua, right? We saw that Joshua, right after he entered the land, he brought the Passover sacrifice, right? There's no other indication. Well, let's see. Before I make a statement, let me make sure it's correct. So let's go back to Leviticus 23. Okay, so that's 13. 5, 1 second here. That's that. It does say here in Numbers 9:2. English for a second. Right. Okay, so we do have here in the first month of the second year, after they came out of Egypt, here we have the Israelites celebrating the Passover. And they did in the Sinai desert, right? On the twilight of the 14th day of the first month when they were supposed to, okay? Okay, so they did celebrate the Passover in the desert, at least on the second year. And 1 second. There were some laws of the Passover. So this for 1 second, numbers 33:3. Okay, so this is just a right. So this is the list of the journeys. So it's talking about the first Passover. Okay, so they did do it in the desert, and the reason that I wanted to check is because, as we see here in Exodus 13, it says, when you come into the land, right, keep the Passover, right? Which might imply, we see that Joshua, right after he came into the land, he does the Passover offering. We also saw that the Israelites did not circumcise while they were in the desert. So maybe we could assume that the Israelites did not keep, except maybe for that second year, that they didn't keep the Passover in the desert. I'm not sure. I'd have to see if it appears anywhere else or if there's any other indication of it. But it does say here explicitly that when you come into the land, you're supposed to keep this service. Okay? Verse 6, Shivat Yamim Tochal Matzot B'yom HaShvi'i Chag Yahweh. So for 7 days you shall eat matzot, and on the seventh day is again a festival to Yahweh. That's what's starting tonight. Matzot ye'achel et shivat yamim velo yireh lecha chametz. So for 7 days, matzot should be eaten, and chametz should not be seen. Velo yireh lecha saor, and leavening agent should not be seen throughout all of your habitations. Right. So chametz and also saor is usually translated as yeast, but it really means sourdough starter. Right, so anything having to do with bread making should be hidden away or destroyed. We got the Levin Chavi Yomahu, and on that day, meaning the first day, we spoke about this on the WhatsApp chat. So on this first day, so you should say to your son, Ba'avur zeh asa Yahweh li b'tzeiti miMitzrayim. So ba'avur zeh this is what I do because of what Yahweh did me in bringing me out, or in my going out of Egypt. And this shall be as a sign on your arm or on your hand, and as a remembrance between your eyes. Boy, a lot to say about that. This is where another one of the verses where the rabbis get tefillin from, but here it's clear that this has nothing to do with tefillin, that the keeping of the 7 days of eating matzah, that's what the sign on your hand is, and that is what the remembrance is between your eyes, right? So it's an analogy, it's a phrase saying that by keeping the 7 days of eating only matzah, right, you're not eating leavened bread, and leavened bread and leavening agent are not even to be seen within your borders, that this is a sign. It's as if a sign placed on your hand and a remembrance placed between your eyes, right? That's a phrase which we see many times in the Tanakh, or something similar to it. In order that the instructions of Yahweh should be in your mouth, because with a strong hand, Yahweh took you out of Egypt. And you shall keep this statute or these ordinances at its correct time, meaning at the correct time of the year, right? Moed Moadim is a yearly, well, it's actually not. Moed also can be weekly, but it means at the right time. Miyamim Yamima and Miyamim Yamima means from year to year. Okay? That's Exodus 13. And then if we were doing a Passover Seder now, we'd do a little bit of singing of Psalms. And since it's already kind of getting late and I don't want to do too long the Torah study, I want to end it now. Maybe we'll end with this song. So let's see if we can find it. A different melody this time. Let's see. Let's try this one. No, I don't like that one. Here, I think it's the kind of standard melody that I know. Let's give this one a try. Yeah. Okay, so with that, I'm going to end today's short study on Chag, and maybe we will do another study tomorrow. I will announce it, and then we can continue on. So any final questions, any final comments? Anybody? All righty. If not, I'm going to say Shabbat Shalom, Shavua Tov, and Chag Matzot Sameach.